the oppressors and the oppressed. And in between are the cowards and the hypocrites, which I do.
No matter how tough the challenge, how high the obstacles, we always overcome.
What Nigerians need now is not about the taunting. Who can come and salvage us from where we are?
All right, good to have you back on ATN Open Air Sunday, and this is basically the discussing political issues, using it as a platform to, bring political talks on specific issues, the party system, actors, and to explore hope and engender positive impact to our society. So today on Open Air Sunday, our first point of call, we're going to Akwa Ibom State, where Governor Eno makes case for impactful single term.
Oriwa queries Guber Tribunal verdict against LP candidates.
As an election tribunal, PDP rejects judgment in favor of APC in Benue State.
NNPP labeling by election tribunal caused controversy.
And in Federal Capital Territory, APC group cautions Wike on overriding North Central interests.
U.S. Senator resigned from committee position amidst graft allegations.
And we still have Barrister Ekene Henry seated here this morning, but we continue the conversation, but this time on the political front. Come back to you right after the break.
Protecting people. Mr. President, my people are under siege.
I will place economic stability and confidence.
To condemn this act and call for the immediate release of this minister and the temple of God.
What our brother access to our money will put in the bank.
As always said, there are two sets of people on earth, the oppressors and the oppressed. And in between are the cowards and the hypocrites, which I do.
No matter how tough the challenge, how high the obstacles, we always overcome.
What Nigerians need now is not about the taunting. Who can come and salvage us from where we are? Protecting people. Mr. President, my people are under siege.
I will place economic stability and confidence.
To condemn this act and call for the immediate release of this minister and the temple of God.
What our brother access to our money will put. Who can come and salvage us from where we are?
And welcome back to ATN Open Air this morning. And now we'll go to Akwa Ibom State. Governor Omor Eno of Akwa Ibom State has alleged a threat to his political future in the state. Eno, who said he received threats from political class to share money or risk forfeiting his second term. He disclosed this while addressing journalists in Uyo, the state capital, yesterday. The governor urged politicians to stop distracting his administration because he was on a mission to address the challenges confronting people of the state. According to Eno, I have received a lot of threats from political class that I would do a second term. I'm putting money in rural development because a good first term is better than a useless second term. I don't want to put money in one person's hands to determine to the detriment of the 7.9 million population. And I called on politicians to give him time till December to put the structure of governance on the right track in the state. Okay. Let's have this conversation right now. He's basically making a case for an impactful single term, which is very practical. But what I find when I saw this headline yesterday, I hadn't read the news at the point. I'm like, is he saying he's not going to go for second term? We've had the politicians say this a lot, and they still went for second term. But he's actually going somewhere. I would rather impact the 7.9 million indigenes or residents of Akwa Ibom State in this first tenure by ensuring that there are developmental achievements where necessary than hoping for his useless second term. I'd like you to quickly react to that.
Oh, well, for me, what actually even came striking is the fact that just now, just months, that there are calls and threats of the second term or calls to share money. That's unfortunate. That's unfortunate. But well, yes, sometimes you may actually find rare individuals, really, that may. I'm not saying that I'm totally in acceptance or believing him to say that he wouldn't scheme for second term. But perhaps he's being smart to say second term is not yet his agenda. It's just too early to push for second term. He may strengthen himself politically to the point that even when it comes close to the end of the first term, that those who are even threatening him with the second term, we see that he would have weakened them and empowered himself. But if what he said is anything that he can live by his word, then it's encouraging to say a governor will realize that what comes first is the welfare of the 7.9 population of Akwa Ibom State, and that he will rather impact their lives in the 4-year term of first term than be ambitious for a second term. And they know that I've come to just in a short follow-up. He appears to be a business person. I don't know what exactly his areas of business would be, but it appears to me that he has some business idea and then wanting to drive the society. I think he's the person that talked about the Happy Hour on Friday. And then I hear that even when the Super Eagles had their match with Southman and Principe in Calabar, I mean in Akwa Ibom, that he encouraged the residents there to go out there to the stadium. Is it free of charge or something? So he has this idea of how to attract investment and people to the state. He should be given the opportunity. Our politicians, especially those who are political godfathers, should understand that sometimes allow people to run the affairs of government, and then let's see what will come out of it. So we will hold him to his words if he's actually going to focus more on the welfare of the 7.9 population as against the few political bigwigs who are already demanding him to share the wealth of the state and threatening him that if he does not accept that, then he will not go on the second term.
Okay, sir, I stand to be corrected, but the governor in question seems to be a pastor.
Yes.
He seems to be a man of God.
Okay.
Yes, so could one say that his stance on keeping his record straight, you know, leaving a legacy that should be looked at the end of the day and say, well, he did.
Right? If you watch carefully, religion indeed should be able to shape. But I said, for someone who doesn't want religion to shape his conscience, religion will not. So it's not just the fact that he's a pastor that could be responsible for this reasoning. Okay? So it could just be a person who perhaps is convinced in his conscience that it is better to serve the people than serve a few individuals who want him to share the state resources for exchange of a second term. But he will rather risk a second term but empower the people and effectively enhance the welfare of the people. It may not just be religion. Right. There are people who may not be pastors but are upright. And there are people who may also be pastors and would have accepted sharing the money just for them to get a second term grid. Yes. Okay.
Now let's really wrap up this Akwa Ibom State story from this angle. Akwa Ibom is celebrating 36 years now since its creation. Yeah. Now that is not a mean feat. That is not a mean feat. Now if you look at that side by side with the level of development in Akwa Ibom State, and considering also that he is a politician, Albert, a pastor. However, people helped him to get to where he is. People contributed money. People supported him. There are party stakeholders who also put in one or two efforts to see that he gets there. So the way of politics is basically saying, okay, looking out for your constituency, not as per those who supported you. Now, he talked about development. Instead of coming to the news to say all of this, instead of coming to the news to say, you don't want me to develop Akwa Ibom State, is there no way a politician could have manage this outside of coming to shout, politicians want me to abandon what I'm supposed to do because they played some roles to bring you there?
The roles political parties and party leadership are expected to play in the emergence of their political party in elections and by extension their candidate, I'm not sure is in exchange of anticipating public funds. What could come as compensation could be in regard to, it's still a party, we play a party win and take all kind of democracy in Nigeria. So the appointments and perhaps, if you like, even the legitimate businesses, opportunities that may exist in the state could be in the front line for the political party, not to share the resources of the state at the expense of development of the state. Mm-hmm. So if any person actually thought that you are supporting a candidate for election just so that you will, without reason, not even a job given to you, but then you will just have a share in the state wealth and then tell that candidate, then like I said, it will only be that candidate who doesn't have a conscience of his own for the welfare of the citizens to succumb to that. Then about coming out to public to say that, look, this is what I'm experiencing. I think we have had stories of people who bottle and stay in with some of this kind of threats and blackmail. And then at the end of the day, when it turns otherwise, say, boy, you didn't say anything. You didn't complain. Even in other sectors, particularly even just like the music industry and then the issue of
Mobad,
yeah. So I do not think there's anything wrong to say, look, this is what at this very early stage being confronted.
Yeah, but these are the same people who gave him the support.
The people that actually give support are the people he's talking is the 7.9 million are the actual people.
We know, but the rappers, the rice, the whatever was shared during the campaign. Because if you don't want to receive spoils, you were talking about, there's a criminal case we were talking about before our one break. If you don't want to receive the spoils of a criminal gang, there is no point in receiving it and then turning a saint otherwise. Because the point I'm trying to bring it to the fore is this, maybe you can also help us look at that from there. When they start their political upheaval right now, chasing him around, then governance of the state is going to suffer because it's going to be everywhere. It's going to be a major distraction, and at the end of the day, it's not going to be. So that's why I said, yes, coming out to like, okay, 7.9 people, these people don't want me to do anything for you. At the end of the day, isn't that going to be a hitch or a clog in the wheel in the political future?
Unfortunately, there is already this distraction. Unfortunately, even by beginning to place this demand on him, is working as some factor of distraction on his mind already. So coming out to say, this is what I'm confronted with just at this early stage, is to also put those people on check if they have conscience. But if they don't have conscience, they would rather go all out against him, I agree, which will be a greater distraction. But this is a person who is saying, I would rather be distracted, even if it means, I believe it to get to a point I would have even said, even if it means losing even this first term. But if my conviction is for the improvement of the welfare of the 7.9 population of the state, rather than a few persons who think that they were the ones that made me to be governor, right? I would rather lose it for them. That, for me, should be the better politician for Nigeria.
I agree.
The better politician for Nigeria should be the one that could even risk the petty sides of office and the good things about that office, Vivian, than to say, okay, what would be the option? The option would have been that let me share the money with them.
Before, while you were campaigning, these same people were coming to you. Okay, I'll pay for this number of.
I have mentioned where the benefits will come from. Look, I've said so. See,
no, I'm not talking. I said him right now. You understand? These same people were the people that, okay,
you took them.
Okay, I'll take care of Akwa Ibom State for you. The women, don't worry, I'm in charge of that. You know, these are sometimes unwritten agreements, unwritten contracts. I don't know what you guys call it in law. But so all of these things happen during camp. You receive.
Yes, you will receive.
Without asking, where is this coming from? You get what I'm trying to say? Is there anything to this? Which is a normal thing politicians do during elections. When you've been anointed, people begin to run around you. And then when you come into office, they also come to you to say, hey, this is what it's going to be.
So the point I'm making is, they will already from the outset, the understanding a governorship candidate would have, you can't be everything as a governorship candidate.
True.
You can't be the commissioners, you won't be the advisors, you won't be the one to execute the contracts. So it is clear, it's understanding that there's some understanding right here, that those who are supporting a candidate may have some understanding with this candidate. For probably, hey, please, I'll be interested in this, if at all they would even be saying. Even if they do not, when you emerge as the governor, right, you will make appointments. You don't know how commissioners were selected. Sometimes it could actually even be themselves who supported you one or the other. Then it is the representative of some of the support. Maybe some bigger persons can come and serve in your government.
Yeah.
Some big politician, those who have the courage to be able to even say, come and share the state resources with us, I believe are so big that they may not even want to come be commissioner for the governor, to work in the cabinet of the governor. But it's okay, let this my person. That is his return to whatever support you've given him. For the political party, that's also the return for the political party generally. But I don't think, and it will be unfair for any person who is supporting a candidate. And it's important you raise this from you. For me, sitting anywhere, it will be unfair for any person who is supporting any candidate to support for the purpose of sharing the state wealth for nothing. When the candidate emerges, say, look, you'll be giving me 1 billion every month. You are criminal.
Yeah, but we've had several such issues.
Yeah, but that's what happens. I'm not pretending that I don't know that what happens. And that's what the man is saying. No, it shouldn't be that way. If you want a contract, I may consider you for the contract of the construction of the road to this place. And that is the reason you supported
where
me.
you get to make your
You may not have gotten that. Yeah, you may not have gotten that contract expressly.
All right, so but going by the trend of what politics seems to be,
here.
okay, we have it to play out in the sense that we are bringing all of this to put you on that seat, okay, and then there is always an agreement. Ab initio, there's an agreement, because if we go back in time in the days of Dr. Chris Ngige in Anambra State, he also faced this from his godfathers, the Andioba of those days, But Chris stood his ground and said, no, it's amazing. I don't know why, if it's true, but he kind of agreed. But when he got into office, going by his own side of the story, he saw to it that this is not proper. This is not proper, and he stood his ground, and we all know what he went through. So that seems to me like what...
Which is likely what...
Yes, what the governor...
And is he ready?
Is he ready?
No, he has pronounced his readiness. He said, look, perhaps they are threatening him with second term.
They will start from his former governor Dom.
Yes.
That's where it will start from.
Yes.
And then when these fracas are created, every day you're busy speaking English, and then the governance is left in the hands of whoever.
Like I said, I acknowledge that would be unfortunate.
Because don't you think it will, like he said, don't you think it will be better for politicians? You're going into politics. Go straight. This is me. This is what I'm going to do. I don't have a godfather. Vote for me because this is what is going to be the benefit and campaign, other than keeping calm, taking the spoils.
No, everywhere.
Receiving the spoils.
No, don't call it spoils. Don't call it spoils.
Why?
Sorry, Vivian. Even in societies where you have the decent leaders, there are supporters.
Sir, some of the money they are using to sponsor you, just like in churches today, do we even question the source of those income? We have had stories, if you remember, let me not begin to point fingers.
Yes.
Where someone says, okay, because this person, I sponsored you in music.
Yes.
I did this for you.
Yes.
Your brand as a celebrity will be used whenever you're traveling there. You use private choppers, and then the drugs are being pushed in and out of a country.
Yes.
So when you're receiving that, did you ask question? No. So now you're coming to now use your personal problem with politicians to say, oh, they don't want me to work for the states.
Well, in all, it's unfortunate that even politicians, and again, I think this question is turning us to bring our electorates into the question.
Yep.
Now, if you, in the Nigerian policy, like you said, if the candidate is clear in his mind and his conscience and would have ordinarily avoided anybody who was to bring any support that may be illicit in quote, or that will entice him to do what his conscience would not have permitted him to do if he becomes the governor, and he says, okay, no, let me leave these people and face my 7.9 population, they can make me be governor. Do we have a political system that this 7.9 population can see that this person, let's support him. Let's give him all the support, even if it means we are contributing our 1,000 naira.
Yeah.
Instead of him to fall in the trap of taking 1 billion from one man who will come and share our resources. Let's give him 1,000 naira. And then with this amount of money, he can run this election.
Critically speaking, you just said, do we have such an informed electorate, which the answer is no, because that is why the vote buying and all of that. But can we begin to say, maybe raise the issue of the civil society, that basically saying, is this the best time, considering this matter, right? And maybe, like he said, the Christian Giges and all more of this country, who would genuinely want to work for the people? But because the process that brings them into power is skewed into people with all kinds of resources and throwing it at them, and you think they are doing it for free. But at the end of the day, when you get into office, you begin to face this. I met you face similar issue to remember, but let's not call names. So now, if this is the issue, is this the point where we ask the civil society organization, say, what are you doing now to ensure that the people are informed? Politically speaking, Because 2027 is almost here. What are the guarantees that people are not going to take $100, COP members are not going to take $100 and then refuse to do what they are supposed to do? Because if it boils down to having an informed electorate, what should be our responsibility as a people right
It's
now?
exactly what you're also doing right now. Even as we're seated here, the three of us, and what we've been doing every day. You do every day, and you do every weekend like this. Well, by this, even those who are watching now should be getting the conversation. This is an open one. To the fact that, look, you need to be upright, and then within your society, and be able to know those who genuinely will serve you, and then will seek to enhance your welfare. And then when you do so, do not compromise. Do not let somebody come around you and then sway you the other way with just one small thing at one moment. They give you that 5,000 naira, 10,000 naira on election day. Sometimes before you even return home, you spend part of it. Before you even return home, you spend part of it.
If not all.
So, if not all. And then, but you probably will do this at the expense of someone who genuinely will come around and then provide services for you. Now, for the electorates, that's a message to them. And that's exactly what we're doing. Then civil society organizations and, if you like, other pressure groups and other similar organizations. That's what I think we'll be doing every day. All those who are involved will be doing every day and every opportunity given. But more of it should have even been by our national institutions, which including the National Orientation Agency, and also the political parties. But political parties here, the people that drive the political parties are the other people that are blackmailing them now. So otherwise, the political parties, if they are truly owned by the members of the political parties, and that's what it is elsewhere. So the political parties are founded, are owned by the members of the political parties.
But with a defined ideology.
But in this place, do we really have, do the members of the political parties actually even know or influence the decisions of the political parties? Not the National Working Committee or the National Executive Committee alone, or any political godfather anywhere. The elders and all of that, they decide for the party members, whether they like it or not. So, if the political parties were to be true political parties in our own society, where indeed they are there to canvass for votes.
Yeah.
Our constitution that created the political party, I think 221 or 229 or thereabout, talks the section of the constitution that talks about political parties and their functions, is basically to contest elections. And in so, canvassing for votes to contest those elections and provide political education. But do they provide political education for the good reasons? No, they do not. Then the next set of people will now be the umpire. If the umpire will be able to conduct our elections objectively and credibly, they will find situations where, assuming these people who are in control of wealth are actually funding and sponsoring somebody who is not the candidate of the people, right? They will just lose in their investment. Because you get your money around and give to one element who you know that is not going there for the people, but for this group of managers of resources in society. And then the elections come out to be true. And the people truly too also saw that, look, this crop of people, this particular candidate and these money bags in our society, if they emerge, they will not represent our interests. They will just go share our resources. Let us vote this person. If the elections are credible and the electoral umpire is real to that commitment, then of course we'll find situations where even as those godfathers are funding this kind of persons they want to blackmail tomorrow to say, do this, do our bidding, or we'll show you the way out, they won't succeed in the elections. So everybody, all segments of our society, stakeholders, have a role to play. The electors have to prepare in their minds to say, look, we want to only truly support those who we know in our society, because nobody from elsewhere is going to be the governor of a state here. True. Nobody from another constituency is going to be the leader of your constituency. So, to a large extent, a collective of all of us, not just one electorate, the collective of electorates know the person contesting the election for any constituency in that area. So, if we prepare our minds to say, this is the way we want to go, but if we prepare and the umpire is really ready to manipulate the election, we will still fail.
Yeah.
So I think all the stakeholders have a role to play. Civil society organizations, I agree with you, yes, we have to continue in this education, educating our people the right way to go during elections.
All right, thank you, Barrister, for that reaction. We move on to Enugu State. Uriwa queries Gilbert Tribunal verdict against LP candidate. Human Rights Writers Association of Nigeria expresses displeasure over ruling of governorship election petition tribunal in Enugu State that upheld the victory of Governor Peter Mbah. Recall that a three-man tribunal in an unanimous judgment delivered by Justice Kudirat Akano dismissed the petitions of the Labour Party and its candidate, Chijioke Edoga. on the basis that the National Youth Service Corps NYSC certificate is not a qualification to contest a governorship election. In reaction to the above, Uriwa, through its national coordinator, Emmanuel Omubiko, at a press briefing in Abuja, queried that if the NYSC was not a prerequisite for contesting an election, then the scheme should be abolished because, according to him, it was a waste of resources. Omubiko said the decision of the tribunal has ominous implications for the National Youth Service Corps, NYSC, itself. If this judgment is upheld by the appeal court or Supreme Court, it effectively undermines the significance of the NYSC certificate, suggesting that anyone can simply present any certificate without consequences, since in the first place it bears no qualifying relevance as interpreted or argued by this panel of judges in the Enugu Gubernatorial Election Petition Tribunal. It puts into question the very relevance of the NYSC institution in Nigeria. Uriwa maintains that the judgment was a gross miscarriage of justice that undermined the principles of fairness and sent what he called a distressing message that political aspirants can manipulate their qualifications with impunity precisely because the tribunal deliberately failed to address that aspect of the petition, but rather played around flowery language to deodorize the panel's decision to unleash injustice. Omubiko said the decision of the Labour Party to appeal the case and called on the appellate courts to correct what it described as this grave injustice and uphold the principles of fairness, transparency, and integrity in Nigeria's elections, with the belief that the citizens of Enugu State and Nigeria as a whole deserve nothing less than a fair, just, and credible electoral process that reflects the true will of the people.
Okay.
Well, which area are we supposed to actually deal with now? Are we talking about scrapping off? Well, okay, let's take it from where it's coming from. There's a case on ground in the tribunal court, and the issue, the contest is about his certificate, the NY certificate, and we're told that it's not irrelevant. It's not as relevant as it should be when it comes to his position as the governor. And I mean, what's your reaction to this?
With respect to the judges of the Enugu State Governorship Election Petition Tribunal, with very great respect to them, if that is the way they perceived it, then I think, in my view, it was a misapprehension of what it is, misunderstanding of what it is. Nobody would ever say the NYSC certificate is a requirement for qualification of elections in Nigeria into any of the positions. No, it's not. Just as, let me say, for instance, a birth certificate is not a requirement of the certificate. Let's say any other certificates in that regard, there is none. Because you cannot add and you cannot remove any of the qualifications as provided by the Constitution. That's what the Constitution says. Even the Electoral Act cannot go outside of the qualifications. And what are those qualifications for the governorship? That you must be a citizen of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. You must be educated to a minimum of school cert. You must attain the age of at least 35 years. And then you must, I think there's the fourth one, and you must be sponsored by a political party. So nobody can add. Now the question, the petitioner said, didn't say, and respectfully so, didn't say that the NYSC certificate was a requirement, as to say if you don't have, you are not qualified. No. Now let me put it in context what it means. And that is where I disagree. In my view, thank God the judgment has been delivered, so it's not like it's something. And with respect to them, howsoever. If you therefore say, as a candidate for election in this country, that any document you are bringing to INEC, that's the point here, that any document you are bringing to INEC is genuine and correct, and you pack it, if you like, let it be your chief's recommendation of your good character, it becomes a document. If you like, let it be a diploma in recognition of your proficiency in one short course. It becomes you are the one who is paddling this document and you present to INEC. And the presumption that you're saying that these documents are authentic and correct and true. I know what? In submitting all of your documents and all information, not just documents, information too. So even if you say, I am a man, and you tell INEC you're a man, you have to be a man. If you are found to be a woman later, you have presented false information to INEC. So So you see the point now?
Okay.
How I distinguish it from the issue of what the argument is. No, that is not a condition, it's not a requirement. Nobody said it's a requirement. You see how we can also mislead? No. But that the fact that you have brought it, if I find that a certain information you have in the amongst the information you provided to INEC is not true, I can follow you on that. Or a document you have presented to INEC that is a document and it is false, it's not true. I know the basis that you should be held liable, because when you put all together these documents, you brought them on oath.
Yep.
In submitting INEC documents to INEC and all the information, it's upon oath.
All right.
So when you put that oath and say all these things are true, once anyone is found not to be true, you have submitted false information to INEC. And the law is clear. What is the effect of the law in giving false information, including false document to INEC? They should have answered that question. Not answer the question whether NYC certificate is a requirement. Nobody said it's a requirement.
All right. So we live in a country where the laws that is applicable to the man in the southeast may not be applicable to the man in the northeast or in the west. And here is where I'm going to with this. The issue of the Mr. President certification came up like this, because you just listed the 4 requisites for contesting for a position, whether governorship or president and all of that. I believe the same applies to the president of Nigeria today.
He must be a citizen by birth. He must be educated at minimum of school cert. He must be sponsored by a political party. And for president,
school
your
cert
age
is your primary 6.
No. The Constitution has explained what the minimum qualification is.
What
It's
is
not
school
primary.
cert?
It's not primary. It's not
What are
primary
the
6.
school certs?
If the interpretation section of the Constitution, when it says what laws are, when a law makes a provision in the body of the law, there are certain references that the law will go to the interpretation section and give interpretation. That interpretation is as provided in that law, not as it means anywhere else. So for the Constitution, what the Constitution means by a minimum of school certificate, right? It went to the Constitution and includes whether it is school cert, that's in the one you understand, first school living certificate, whether it is by training, whether it is by ability of being able to speak and write in English.
Any certification that
it doesn't have to be a certificate. It doesn't have to be the first school living certificate.
Okay, but any documentation that presents
even a training, even the fact that you are able to speak and write in English
can suffice
qualifies you
as a school cert.
Yes.
All right, now good. So nobody mandates anyone to say you must give this certificate to be eligible
Excellent.
for election into governorship or president. All right, good. So now, like I start by saying that it's beginning to look to several Nigerians that the law that is applicable to the man in the southeast differs from the man in the northeast, differs from the man in the
way it's applied. But otherwise, that's not what the law really is.
No, I'm just.
The way it's applied.
We are not lawyers. It's good that you're seated here in the studio today. So we have the issue of the president where they said, oh, it's not part of the process. The issue of his certification and all of that, because we have the president of Nigeria today, His Excellency's President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who presented a Chicago State University
certificate
without any other documentation that shows how he got there. It was accepted by INEC.
Yes.
A Peter Mba of Enugu State, fantastic guy, he's doing so well already, no doubt about that. However, presented an NYC certificate that's been a cause of controversy. We have had someone come to the tribunal say, oh, see, this is authenticating the certificate. NYC comes out and they say, we don't know that man. He hasn't been our staff for. These are like very bad issues right here. Now we have the tribunals telling us that it doesn't matter. It's not necessary. It's not part of what is required. All right, that's fine. What is the essence of presenting the certificate? Is it not to influence or convince the umpire and influence the people that you are eligible to be voted for into the office?
Yeah, that's the point.
Is that not the point?
Yes,
now, if that is the point, which is what I've been going to with all of this, if that is the point, Barry Sekine, has these people not deceived Nigerians by not telling us the truth on what is and what is not?
That's the point. And that's
if
what
they have
the law
deceived
says.
If they have deceived Nigerians, is there no part of the Constitution that says this is what should happen to such people?
It is clear. I just said so.
So can you help us understand why the
law is
tribunals are running away from it? And not just say someone was removed for alleged forgery here you're saying that it is okay to have this. So can you help us understand why the
I
tribunal,
cannot.
the lawyer, the judges are looking at us and telling us that it's become okay?
Vivian, I don't know from where that has come. The only one I know which I can say is what the law says. And I have said, the law is clear. And that's why even the judges departed deliberately.
Good. Let's say I want to contest for the president, no, not even president. Let's say I want to contest for any political position. If I lie, if I take a document that I cannot authenticate, and okay, forget about politics. Let's say I'm applying for a job, and it's required that I present certain. If I present certificate that I cannot authenticate its source, or I cannot, that is not in existence, please. Have I not committed a crime?
You have, and you will lose
that. What does the law say about such a person?
It's forgery. Forgery is criminal.
What happens to someone who is caught in the act of a forgery?
He should be prosecuted and convicted, and he will lose whatever he got from that basis. Vivian, please, sorry, just a moment. The same even in the university. If you got admission to a university by presenting a non-existent fake WAEC result, you may succeed at the time they are doing the check of documents and all of that. They give you, even after they've given you admission, then the university now takes time to authenticate, to check the source of those results. And find out that this particular WAEC result for this person, they will rusticate you. It has been happening in universities. They will publish the names of those who have been expelled from the school for different reasons. Some will be for presenting fake WAEC results. The reason is you have misrepresented fact. You have lied. It is worse when you even lied on oath. And that of INEC, it is not fortuitous, it's not by chance that when it comes to INEC, because they know that Nigerians, when they are forming this law, they know that these things could happen. People could just manipulate results and present anywhere. They now made the law in such a way that as you are bringing this information about yourself, nobody forced you about yourself. As you are bringing the documents you say you have, that please bring it on oath. That is why that document you are using to submit all of it, the cap of it is that it is on oath, where you have said that all the information provided here and all the documents are true, and you swore to it. Then the law is that if for any reason, anytime it is found that any one of them is not true, you have provided false information to INEC. And what's the consequence? Providing false information to INEC is a disqualification.
So now,
even if you have the election as passed and you declared, you should lose the position.
As we speak, our president,
but then when I interpret it up and down.
As we speak, our president had to ask the U.S. court, Judge Gilbert, Geoffrey Gilbert, did say authorize Czech unit release all the details, give it to this man that's been asking for it. It's by law. He has gone to court to say, hey, don't release it until Monday. This is where we are. This is exactly what is going on. Let me ask a simple question right now. If I'm accusing you of having a fake certificate, and you're convinced that you actually went through school and you have that certificate, do you need to go to court to tell the court, do not release my original certificate?
Why? I would even say anybody who has my certificate anywhere, please bring it to. Somebody is saying I didn't go to UST. Please, UST, bring back, show the world. That's what I would say. Oh, somebody says I didn't go to University of Ibadan to do my LLM. Please, UI, provide all the information I have. I'll go and sleep in my house. Say, go to UI and go and find. You get all my results and all my.
So for the sake of the over 200 million Nigerians who is sharing in the embarrassment we are being before the whole world, do you think Mr. President owes us a responsibility to say, because I'm your president, I'm answerable to you? Here is authentic result, and I dare anybody to give me a result that is not there. Would that be too much to ask of our Mr. President?
Elsewhere, and not even elsewhere as I said, I would have done so. Elsewhere, that's what other leaders would have done.
Consider the future.
He has already considered it as too much by the struggle to say, no, don't give or don't give today, give to. In fact, the battle has been that don't show anybody. Because when the Atiku Abubakar application was before the court, the defense of Mr. President's team was to the effect that don't show. The university, in their response, was that, well, we will only defer to what the owner of the information says. considering privacy issues and laws in the United States, we will differ to what he says. If he says we should show, we show. If he says we shouldn't show, we don't show. But that time, Nigerians were celebrating all that. I was clear that the court had not given a position in that at that time.
Yeah.
But it came reported here as if, oh, the court has said, don't tell me, because the university has said they will not show. No. Or the university has said, yes, XYZ person attended this here. No problem. It is now that the court has actually looked upon it and ruled that, look, hey, university, yes, he attended, right? Sure, he say he attended. Or whoever it is, I'm not saying whether it's Mr. President or not. A university, let me use any general now. A university says XYZ person attended, and then the court is, okay, he attended. Show all of these documents that will show that he truly attended, apart from anything that is private. And I dare tell you, there is nothing private about the documents of a student of a university with respect to the forms that will show that is the person, the passports that will show that is the person, the signatures that will show that is the person. There's nothing private about it. They've become public documents. That if I even apply for certified true copy of certain documents from the university I attended, or of any person, they should provide, because they are public documents. If it is not public, you shouldn't have given.
You shouldn't have, yeah.
If there's anything private, maybe health status, maybe at the time you did your medicals in course of processing your admission, those medicals, for instance, if there is something that would have shown my health status, that it is personal and is private, that can be held back. But not such basic things as to the certificate and that was issued and whatever errors on the face of certificate. But particularly for this in Enugu State, it is just so clear, and the courts are giving disparate rulings here and there. Once a document is held to be false and forged, it means the offense of forgery has been committed. That's one. Two, with respect to INEC and election in Nigeria, once you provide false information, false, any information or any of the document, like it doesn't have to be educational qualification.
Yeah.
Even if it's your birth certificate you submitted to INEC, but it was not issued by that health center or by that National Population Commission, or a declaration of age that probably was not issued, that didn't emanate from the court as you purport that it was. Maybe you just did it yourself and type and cut a stamp and stamp on it. You forged it. If anybody knew this fact, maybe in the past, and brought it to court and is able to show that indeed that this document didn't emanate from that place, and one of the witnesses to come and show is a witness that will be compelled. A compelled witness is a witness of court. I don't know what our judges taught us earlier, and are turning it upside down. Any witness that is brought to court by subpoena is a witness of court. I stand to be corrected, but that's the way I understand it. Because that's a witness that, Vivian, I was to call you to come testify, but I know that I can't get you to come testify, maybe because of the position you are, or probably you are even a witness that would have been in favor of the other person, or you're in a possession of document I want you to bring. We do this application every day as lawyers. Because I cannot call you, especially, you're not my witness as such. I have matters in court that I would have asked court to tell government officials in Ministry of Lands to come and bring some documents. Because it's not actually like my witness. It will become a witness of the court. It is the court's order. If the court can refuse me, the court can actually refuse that application. That's why it's on application. So when I do that subpoena, that application, the court says, no, I don't see a reason this person will come. He won't come. Then when the court brings a person, the person comes to court and says, this is not there. And I say that, why didn't that person front load his, how could he have done so? All right. But we have had those judgments. How could a court say a document, the court is not looking as to whether the document is authentic or not, but that document is not a requirement. But with respect to the judges, that's how they saw it.
It's all right. Maybe not all right. So from Mr. President, Chicago State University, that has become an international controversy, albeit embarrassing, if you may, to Peter Mbase alleged certificate, NYC certificate, whether it's authentic, because NYC didn't come out to say that it's not their certificate.
No, sorry, I think I hear that the DG or an appropriate authority of NYC, after they got provoked when the person even took them to court, that they actually came to this, actually came and said that did not emanate from them. What else do you want? No, but because they didn't want, that's why they didn't want to go to the fact that it is either authentic or false, but to say it is not a requirement for qualification of the election.
If the law to you will not be the law to me, why should we all agree that this is a law that is for the Federal Republic of Nigeria? Well, if the law, that the way, if I go to court and they look at me because I'm a female, and give judgment because they like my face or something about me. And then when you bring similar case in Sokoto, they tell you, no, it won't work for you. How is that a law that is meant for all Nigerians?
It's not a law itself. The law is covering the field. The law has general application. All our laws, all our laws in themselves have general application. There is no law of the National Assembly that is made for one region against the other region in terms of what would apply to everybody. So it's not a law in itself. It's the interpretation of the law and who is interpreting the law. Okay. And who is applying the law.
All right.
And then when you apply the law in such a way as if it's different from one person to another, that is where we fault your interpretation.
It's okay. Let's talk about election tribunal more. The People's Democratic Party has rejected the judgment of the governorship. Has rejected the judgment of the governorship election tribunal, which validated the election of Reverend Father Hyacinth Alia as governor of Benue State. The governorship election petition tribunal sitting in Makodi on Saturday dismissed the petition filed by the PDP and its governorship candidate, Taito Soba, against the election of Alia of the All Progressive Congress. The tribunal ruled that the petition was incompetent. The Benue State chapter of the PDP rejected the tribunal's verdict in a statement by its publicity secretary, Bemba Lotium. The statement said, after a review of the judgment with its team of lawyers, the PDP believes that it does not meet the requirements of substantive justice and is not in alignment with the extant electoral laws, guidelines and regulations. The party has accordingly directed its lawyers to appeal the judgment at the Court of Appeal, Abuja, within the time frame specified by law. It said, our great party urges its team and supporters across the state to be calm and of good cheer in the faith that though the work of justice may be long, the goal of reclaiming the governorship mandates will surely be achieved in the end. This is norm now. We're going to talk about NNPP anytime after this particular one. So when Governor Alia is busy giving thanksgiving and thanking God for winning, but the PDP is saying, hey, that's not it. With all of the controversies coming out from this 2023 election tribunal process, I don't know if it has ever been this bad. With giving one ruling here and not on the same grounds and not favoring another party in another ground. I know that lawyers during court sections, they usually refer to a case where somebody wants to make reference of a case that was in existence and all of that. Why do you think right now that we are having all of these disjointed and rejections? Rejections is not new, but it's just that it's more is more than what it used to be before now.
You see, when a process or a suit is dismissed on ground of incompetence, right, it will mean that not quite in the substance or the merit of what issues that are canvassed or sought to be canvassed in that suit. So like this one, if it's basically about, they dismissed the petition for incompetence, it is not as to any answer to the questions raised by the petitioners. That's like the previous one we discussed. So somebody is not qualified, or a document is false or otherwise, but that the process itself, the suit, the petition itself is incompetent. It could be on different grounds. It is either it didn't meet some provisions or requirement of law. If you file an election petition outside of the time that you're required to file, after the date of declaration of the candidate you're challenging is returned, it will be incompetent completely. Sometimes you may actually would have had a good case. You see now? That's the difference between this particular decision and the other one.
Okay.
You may actually have a case of the candidate not being qualified. The judge, the court will not jump, or if you like, we would say, will not descend in the arena of conflict and hold that, notwithstanding that your petition is not competent, right? That yes, this person appears not to be qualified. No, the court won't go there. You have to bring a competent suit first before the court will look into the issues that are raised in that suit and then hold one way or the other about the questions that are raised. So those petitions that were dismissed on basis of incompetence, yes, it's appealable even when so held, because you may be challenging what the court looked at to hold that the petition is not competent. Or it may not be competent by reason of parties. Look, I have some of the grounds that a process may not be competent. It may not be competent by bringing it before the wrong court.
Okay.
It may not be competent by not complying with some preconditions for bringing that suit. Take, for instance, maybe a time, if the law says you must file your petition within a certain period, and you are bringing your petition outside that period, on the face of it in itself, it's become competent. And it is easy to quickly come at that decision. You look at the date that process was filed, and you look at the date the cause of action became existent. That is, let's say when the declaration was made. If it is the election, that's when the cause of action arose. If it's other matter, the same way, the court will, in its judgment, look at when the cause of action, the reason you got to come to court, and what you're complaining, when it arose, and you compare it to when the suit was filed, and look at the law with respect to timing, and you see that you are outside of the time. The court will not go inside of whether you have the contractual right, or you have the fundamental right, or you are qualified. So it will not be dismissed on that ground. Or again, parties that brought the matter themselves are not competent parties, depending on the subject matter. So these are issues that may come at the preliminary stage that could lead to the dismissal of a suit. But where the court got into the merit of the matter and looked at it, that's where they will examine the propriety of the claims and the questions that are asked therein and hold one way or the other.
Okay, sir, also on this,
yes,
the court is supposed to actually go beyond all of this in the area of bringing justice and bringing fairness to all level. And so, and we have the issue of so much litigation this time around. How can we go about the management of all these processes, coupled with the fact that there are a lot of cases on ground now?
You see, it begins from the very first step of our electoral process. And for me, I've taken it in total. The electoral process begins with registration of voters, before it gets to even where the political parties carry out their own activities. The registration of voters is done by INEC. So you begin to have issues from that point. If we get that process right, then we get to the political parties, their internal processes right. You're reducing the possibilities, likelihood of litigation. Because litigations begin from even the internal party issues. But of course, those who are competent to take out those actions are only aspirants within the political party that took part in the primaries of political parties and then feel that there's something that was done wrongly and they want to challenge. So if we get even within the political parties right, the political parties being democratic and conducting those primaries, right, within the provisions of their constitution and the Electoral Act in compliance, that's one way. Then before it gets to the point of the general elections properly, where if the Electoral Commission conducts that election transparently and clearly in compliance with the provisions of the law, the Constitution, the Electoral Act, their electoral guideline, and of course, even the regulations that may have been formulated by that commission. And then the conduct in itself during the election by both the political parties and electorates and the voters themselves, right? I mean, the candidates and the voters themselves. If all of these conducts are in compliance with law, it reduces the chances of multiple litigation, really. That does not mean that there may not be litigation. But where you can hardly find a ground as provided by the Electoral Act, the excellent thing about election that makes it even ordinarily would have been easier is that you can't come to election petition by concocting or creating any ground that is outside of the grounds that the Electoral Act has provided. So it means that if you're going to complain about the election, those complaints must truly be in compliance, must be one of those grounds that the Electoral Act has clearly provided. It is not like any other matter about slapping somebody or taking somebody farmland that may be. For election matters, the grounds are clearly statutory, provided by law. So if these grounds are managed in such a way that even a cantankerous candidate, somebody who is not troublesome, I would always want to go to election, he doesn't find the grounds, he will hardly bring a petition. Or if he brings a petition, you see on the face of it that those grounds don't even exist. But the way our elections are conducted are such that those grounds are replete. They are almost just there. Either the commission in itself is conducting elections and acting in such a way that with impunity, they don't care about the laws and their own regulations. political parties in conducting their primaries don't even care. In substituting candidates, they look at the law and they throw the law the other way. Even when they say you cannot just substitute a candidate except it is this condition, they still constitute. Maybe they don't just like your face. They say, oh no, it should be this other person. And you're just doing, those are you go to election grounds. You conduct elections without even complying with the regulations. You don't sign ballot papers. You don't account for ballot papers. Everything is just, candidates themselves come to election grounds and they are fighting, or their supporters, electorates are fighting, snatching ballot boxes, and you're creating those grounds. But assuming that nothing of such happens, it will be difficult for even somebody to go, so that it will reduce the number of elections. So I advocate for our political parties to conduct themselves democratically, in compliance with their constitution, in compliance with the electoral act, in compliance with the constitution. I also advocate for the Electoral Commission to also conduct elections that are clearly credible, in compliance with the constitution, the electoral act, their regulations, and their guidelines.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. We'll just take a short break. When we come back, we're still looking at issues, or if you may, controversies around elections in Nigeria. This time, the tribunal did label NNPP candidate or party as cultists and red cap wearers and violent and terrorist cultists. We'll have all of that conversation after the break.
Protecting people. Mr. President, my people are under siege.
I will place economic stability and confidence.
To condemn this act and call for the immediate release of this minister and the temple of God.
Give us access to our money we put in the bank.
She said 3,000 is 1,000 to collect 3,000 naira.
I've always said there are two sets of people on earth, the oppressors and the oppressed. And in between are the cowards and the hypocrites, which I
No matter how tough the challenge, how high the obstacles, we always overcome.
What Nigerians need now is not about the turn thing. Who can come and salvage us from where we are?
stability and confidence.
To condemn this act and call for the immediate release of this minister in the temple of God.
Because access to our money will put in the bank.
She said 3,000 naira is one child to collect 3,000 naira. Where are we heading to?
I've always said there are two sets of people on earth, the oppressors and the oppressed. And in between are the cowards and the hypocrites, which I
No matter how tough the challenge, how high the obstacles, we always overcome.
What Nigerians need now is not about the turn thing. Who can come and salvage us from where we are?
Welcome back to Open Air ATN Sunday. Heading up to Kano State, the description of members of the New Nigeria People's Party, NNPP, as red cap wearers, violent and terrorist cults, bandits and bitter losers by a member of the Kano State Governorship Election Petition Tribunal has continued to generate controversy. Recall that the tribunal on Wednesday sacked Governor Kaba Yusuf of the NNPP as Kano State Governor in an unanimous judgment read by the chairman of the three-member panel, Justice Oluyemi Akintan Osadebe. But while the tribunal had resolved all the grounds of the petition in favor of the All Progressives Congress, APC, the petitioner, and declared its candidate, Nasser Yusuf Gawuna, as the winner of the March 28th gubernatorial polls, the consenting judgment of Justice Benson Anya, member of the panel, has gathered more attention, especially on the social media, where excerpts of the judgment have been trending. Justice Aya had said that Governor Yusuf presided over a state where anarchy was being supported and agents of the government were allowed to malign the judiciary. This is very thought-provoking. the state of conflict and airing your minds and fighting each other, is beginning to come up to the level of questioning. What do you advocate to this, sir?
I agree, and I'm worried that the judiciary has actually been under pressure. I agree that judicial officers have a responsibility to protect the judiciary. I've actually even advocated that the first person I would hold to ensure that orders and judgments of court are respected, and then the judiciary is respected, is the judges themselves, because they can actually get to enforce. But then, when, with respect to the judges of that tribunal, when a judge has an opportunity to make comments, and that's why largely they are usually not seen to be making comments generally, so that their comments are most guided, because when they make those comments, they are taken seriously. Now, this for me appears and comes like an allegation, because it's certainly not a judgment. This comment, instead, is part of it. And even if I know that there is what we call obiter, which is those comments made by judges or a judge in delivery of judgment, but not forming actually the main issues that are probably drawn from the finding of the court with respect to the issues that were before them. But when even the obiters are made and they come in the way of allegation, they are not founded. So, by the lines of these excerpts, to ascribe a political party, ascribe a governor, ascribe a government as bandits, as, if you like, any derogatory name, only comes as an allegation, because I'm not sure that those judges sat on those issues and examined evidence on those issues before them and came up with those positions. It would have been a situation where those formed part of the issues for consideration, where somebody alleged that the governor or the political party or the government of Kano State conducted themselves or are themselves bandits, and then in your examination you had opportunity for them to defend themselves on that allegation, then you come up with that verdict. That's when it becomes something that should be worth the while to even comment. Otherwise, as it is it stands. I say sometimes that some persons cannot be. You can't say because you are sitting, presiding over a tribunal, and then you think that you can make comments that can be examined as is being done now on social media, and giving opportunity to people who shouldn't have talked to judges to talk to judges the way they are talking to judges. Even if you think you have immunity not to be prosecuted for things you said, judicial immunity, I mean, well, while delivering judgment. But it's not everything you say. You can't be delivering judgment and you call somebody a thief.
Exactly. Now, he didn't just call them politics, overbearing. He called them bitter losers. You were delivering a judgment. Now, here's the issue here. I do not think this is the first time that tribunal judges were attacked. There have been cases, I mean, let's not go far. In River State,
the tribunal was moved to Abuja.
That's moved to Abuja
for fear of threats.
So now, judges, from growing up, I'm not a lawyer, but we have been exposed to some of these processes in law to questions of it. They are meant to be unbiased umpires. They're meant to be umpires without bias to any side. That is why they are judges. When you were teaching us about the reason why Lady Justice I is blindfolded, because so that the judge wouldn't know who is what and all of that. But Justice Anya's position on this is very troubling. Let's get into Kano State proper. This is not a support for any violence or any.
No, not at all.
The Kwankwasia movement, the red cap wearers,
that have been described as militants, or rather, no, what do they call them? Bandits.
Bitter losers, cultists, by a judge that presided over a case where one of the red cap wearers being the governor is a party to that case. Now, Justice Anya and the three panel judges expect people like this to take it and believe that there was no bias with this kind of statement. But let's pull it further into the Kano State and look about the Kwankwasia movement. This is a movement that, as it is, I don't even think that Kwankwaso has all the powers to control how they read. Because immediately this judgment was given, the man is calling a bandit and bitter loser. He declared a 24-hour curfew. And the police immediately put that into effect because he already said that there was going to be a problem. I put all of this together and tell me if these judges consider the making such statements, if they consider how politically volatile Kano State is, and the level of bloodshed, because he's talking about protecting themselves as judges who are being threatened by this, and the level of bloodshed that would come out of this if it is not handled properly. Knowing all of this, knowing that the state is already very volatile and the judge is making such threats, you are a lawyer. You know what the rule book says. At what point should you think that such a judge is not biased in whatever judgment he should have?
The comments may not in themselves conclude that the justices were biased. That's what I think. Comments may not in themselves conclude. But that's why it's worrisome. And that's why it's eliciting this kind of reaction and talking point. And that's why it's only reasonable and expected that when we sit over matters, even as we sit as lawyers in mediation, as we are mediating, we try as much as possible to depersonalize, if you like, in such a way that it doesn't matter what any of the parties says to me in that mediation process. I'm a mediator. As a professional mediator, you also have the ability to control your emotion, such that in that process, a party may even insult you and abuse you. But your ability to be able to also contain that makes you really, truly the professional mediator. So it's like I said, the judges are human beings. And we really do understand the enormous pressure they are under, especially even entertaining election matters. The threats are there against the judges. We commiserate with them. It is lawyers that even speak for judges. If judges tell you what they go through, you will imagine that if they were allowed to talk, or if they were allowed to react the way that they will even exchange blows in courtroom. But you can imagine how ridiculous and embarrassing that would be. and the exalted position of a judge. Sometimes judges even get forced, even in court, to almost become emotional. It may be in the course of being a human being, yes, but above all, they are cautioned. There is even the ethics for judges and the code of conduct for judges. So I feel really a bit constrained even to go deeper in but indeed I must say what it is, even though a lawyer, that it will be an unfortunate situation if this kind of expression of the emotion of judges continues, because you could talk and then the parties who are not so much guided by any code as judges and lawyers are could get loose. That's the point.
Good. Now, let's look at consequence management.
Yes.
There has been an issue now. Let's look at the consequence management, because right now, and like I said, I don't know, even the Concoursia himself, he has the ability to control these guys. I don't think so. They have used the state authorities to use the police to say 24 hours custody. Now they are appealing the judgment of the courts. But let's look at some of the issues around this judgment. State Tribunal Justice told us that 165,600 subtraction of the votes that Governor Yusuf got, that this number of votes were messed up by wrong, whatever INEC submitted and all of that. Basically, they rejected that 160-something thousand, 65,600 votes that was given to Governor Yusuf. And that's how they declared the APC mandate.
Okay.
Here is why this is troubling. Governor Yusuf didn't declare himself winner. That was INEC who accepted that result and declared it. Now the judges, who are not the electoral umpire, but justices, of course, decided to say it was 65,000. They didn't call for a rerun.
Yes, I'll tell you why.
Yeah, they just cancelled that.
Yes.
The man on the street who may be attacking the judges does
We
not
don't understand.
what
That's why we're having this conversation, so we'll explain to them.
INEC, who actually gave that verdict, is not even on the chopping board. Rather, another person is receiving the brunt, and people may even end up losing their life if they are fracas in Kano over this. I'd like to bring you and throw more light on.
Well, but first, let me start from the bottom. There shouldn't be any reason for fracas. There shouldn't be any reason for violence. And I enjoin those in Kano that whatever is the outcome of any matter, it is not justified to go on the street and cause any damage willfully of anything, or even life, whether property or life. That's said. Then, you see, election matters, like I stated, the grounds are always very clear, and then the prayers and the outcomes are also clear. There is no, it's not a matter of conjecture or discretion by a judge in election matters. The election matters and the Electoral Act is to the effect that if this is found, this will be the verdict. That's the thing about the electoral matters. That is to say, if the petitioner says that no, Mr. A didn't really get the majority of votes I got, if he's able to establish before the court, in that his petition, he would have also even asked the court to say, declare me, I got. So you won't expect that if the courts agree with his evidence that he actually got the greater number of votes and show that the other person didn't get, they will not order a rerun. Okay, go on.
Let me come in. They said that a lot of the documents used to declare that 160-something thousand votes were mutilated.
I'll get to that.
And now that part of it was overvoting. I just wanted to bring that.
Yes. So what happens in a situation where any vote is declared invalid that has been accredited to the winner? It will be removed. That's the law. It will be removed.
Is it not a crime for anybody to know that this is overvoting and add that vote to a party?
That is why we talked, if you listen when I talk, I say if the commission, the Electoral Commission, should conduct the election in compliance with the law. That is even the law already. The law says...
Yeah, so if the law says that...
But I remember that INEC is a respondent in all of the petitions.
Yeah, we're saying the same thing here. But who committed the crime that led to announcing Yusuf as the if this is going to be a crime that would deny him the governorship seat?
They will deny you.
Who committed?
INEC committed the offense.
So what's going to happen to INEC here? Because that would be what justice should look like.
No, but you know,
But if justice looks like INEC doing what INEC wants to do and getting away with it.
No,
And
it's not.
now another
It's
person
not
begins
a
to
criminal
pay the price.
proceeding. Recall one thing. It's not a criminal proceeding for punishment per se.
Okay.
Right? If you like, take it as punishment. The fact that you actually got something of value and it's taken away from you is punishment in a way. But not punishment as you would expect in a criminal procedure. Somebody would have been sentenced to go serve a term. In terms of election for somebody losing a position. A governor has been elected and declared the winner. Right? It is punishment enough to cancel his election.
That's what the governor.
Yes.
The person who made it, the governor didn't make that declaration. The body empowered by law made that declaration that the court have not found to be false.
I understand. That's why I said, recall that every election petition that INEC is made a respondent. The political party by choice may be made a respondent. Then the candidate who is challenging is definitely a respondent.
Okay.
In fact, must be a respondent because it's the one challenging.
Yeah.
Right? Now, no, sorry, not the one challenging. The one who declared victorious in the election must be made a respondent by the person who is dissatisfied with the outcome of the election. I agree that all of these should have been on the shoulders of INEC, just to suggest as if moving forward there should be some punishment, something that INEC should lose, or let's say somebody should even go to jail.
Because what if this stands, if they go to Supreme Court and this stands, what it means is that someone clearly falsified results in declaring another person who shouldn't be the governor.
We are saying the same thing, Vivian. The position as it is now for the tribunal, all they have got before them to do is to say that this declaration by INEC did not comply with the provisions of law, especially where perhaps certain votes that were not valid, they ought to have been declared invalid, but they didn't do so. At the moment, that is what the tribunal is invited to do. It's not a criminal proceeding. However, in the Electoral Act, there are provisions that criminalize the conduct of electoral officials. So if you ask them by advocating the way forward, is now you now revert to the provisions in the Electoral Act that criminalize this conduct of the electoral officials, where an electoral official does this and it's an infraction to the the provision of the Electoral Act, that the punishment is crime. Prosecute that person in a criminal proceeding, not in an electoral petition. Electoral petition is not a criminal proceeding for the purpose of punishment in terms of either a imprisonment term or a fine. There are provisions in the Electoral Act with respect to fine and imprisonment where even officials of INEC commit infraction of the Electoral Act, but not a petition challenging the declaration of INEC. The declaration in itself is not a criminal action, even if the declaration is wrong. So if INEC even made a wrong declaration in itself, it's not one of those criminal actions in the electoral, except moving forward. If we now amend our constitution, alter our constitution, amend the Electoral Act in such a way to say, if the outcome of any election declaration up to Supreme Court finally, that the declaration by INEC of a person is found to be unlawful or found to be invalid, that they should constitute an electoral offense, and somebody in INEC who actually caused that declaration should be prosecuted. Of course, it will be another proceeding for that prosecution. The person must be given the opportunity to defend himself. If again to that proceeding ends and that person is found culpable of that criminal proceeding for declaring somebody unlawfully, then that person will serve a term. It just as the situation in I think it's Akwa Ibom also, where they said a returning officer did something that constitutes a criminal offense. He will be prosecuted for that.
This is the point where we now begin to call for electoral offences courts,
which has been advocated all long ago. We should have a distinct electoral offences court, or even if it is the regular court that exists now, we should begin to see a situation where there should be a commission that should be dedicated with respect to those provisions in the Electoral Act about prosecuting people, whether electorates, political parties, or candidates, or including even officials of INEC that commit infractions of criminal nature against the Electoral Act.
Thank you very much.
I'd like to ask again, sir. You know, we have seen a lot of inconsistencies with issues that has to do with elections so far, you know, and then it's been going back and forth, you know, and all that. And just like we talked about now, because there should be a situation where there has to be control. There has to be measures meted on, you know, people
everybody.
who, yeah,
all
everybody,
yes,
all stakeholders and all that. Now, you've told us that it's already in the law.
Yes.
Yes, the concerning INEX and all that irregularities that can be pinned
that
on them,
criminal,
pinned on them, you know. As so, why has this not been functional? Because it looks to everybody like they do what they do and they easily get away with it. Why? And then it continues. It continues. How do we get to nip this in the bud? Why hasn't any of these offenses that is connected to INEC, why does it look like they are just getting scot-free?
The INEC appears to be more focused on the primary responsibility, constitutional at that, of conducting, supervising, and managing our elections. And then they seem to have been overwhelmed and then abandoned the aspect of enforcing provisions of the Electoral Act with respect to probably infractions against the Electoral Act that have criminal nature, including the police. The police too, when it comes to election, right? Because it's the police that actually clearly mentioned the Electoral Act and other security agencies. In fact, the police and the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps and other security agencies providing support seem not to be focused with the area of prosecution of electoral offenders before or during elections. Now, there are provisions in the Electoral Act, like I said, I think about from section 114 of the Electoral Act up to 129 of it, provide for electoral offenses. Wow. And these electoral offenses are clear as to the different stages. Like I said earlier, it begins with even the registration of voters. There are criminal offenses with respect to registration of voters that may be committed by INEC officials. So, if at that stage, INEC is not conducting an election yet, the police usually don't come in anything about election until only during elections. But we have forgotten that they are supposed to also be involved at even this stage of registration of voters, because there are criminal offenses that may be committed at registration of voters. The second stage is the one that is conducted or managed by political parties. The same sections 114 or thereabout up to 129 of the Electoral Act, talking about electoral offenses, also have provisions with respect to political parties conducting their primaries and their conventions and their meetings. There are criminal offenses that have been prohibited in the Electoral Act with respect to how you conduct your primaries and your meetings and conventions, political parties, and the conduct of candidates and their supporters. You move away from that. During campaigns, there are provisions that prohibit certain conduct and behaviors and criminalize them during campaigns. And these things happen every time. Even when we're having campaigns here, people were arrested, media houses were destroyed, and all those are prohibited already in the Electoral Act and as constituting criminal offenses, whether they are carried out by political parties or party supporters or the electoral officials. But no prosecution. Usually, we don't even heighten those. The police wouldn't even come in. Sometimes even when they come in on partisan basis, upon the influence of state. And at that time, at every time, you would have the state authorities being controlled by one political party or the other, at all times. So if it is perpetrated by a political party against the political party in power, against the opposition, you find out that no action will be taken. So it is imperative that every stakeholder is determined and committed to sanitizing our electoral process. And that's why the advocacy for a particular authority or commission to be committed with the mandate for enforcing these provisions that are already there in the Electoral Act, so that INEC will have a component of it which is about the only responsibility they are good at, which they are not even perfect on, that is conducting elections. So beyond conducting elections, enforcing electoral provisions of the Electoral Act with respect to electoral offenses. It's also a responsibility.
All right. Very much. Let's be wrong. The North Central APC All Progressive Congress has warned the Minister of Federal Capital Territory, Wike, against taking any actions or making moves inimical to the interests of the party or the North Central region. Chairman of the forum, Alhaji Saleh Mandong Zazaga, said this in Jos, the Plateau State capital, after an emergency meeting to assess and review the election tribunal judgment and how the APC has fared so far. He said all hands must be on deck to ensure that the party performs well at the court, whether tribunal, appeal, or Supreme Court. As someone who is holding an appointive position of the APC, a lawyer by profession, and someone reputed for doggedly fighting political legal battles right from Rivers State, he, that's Wike, should come out strong and be seen to be supporting and strategizing for victory for the candidates of the APC in the courts, at least in the North Central region, under which the FCT falls in. Zazaga set further cautioned former Governor Wike against using his position as the FCT minister to strategize for his 2027 presidential ambition, as some people are peddling in some quarters. So he maintained that their forum will be watchful to ensure his loyalty to the nation, the APC, and President Bola Tinubu is complete first without engaging in any politics for self-interest. The chairman advised Wike to be cautious in FCT demolition, land revocation, and other administrative policies that will have negative outcomes, as the North Central will be the first region to bear the brunt and take the full heat of any unpalatable occurrence in the FCT. He said the region is already going through many challenges, including security, and they would not want anything to aggravate the situation further. He called on all the APC leaders, supporters, and members alike to support all their candidates pursuing post-election legal matters in the courts. He also urged Nigerians in general to support Tinubu's secretary to the government of Federation, George Akume, all the ministers and those holding appointed positions, so that they can excel in their responsibilities and deliver the dividends of democracy to the nation. He also urged Nigerians in general to support secretary to the government and everyone. But that's a George Akume, all the ministers and everyone. But basically, let me come back to you real quick, Barrister Ekine. To a lot of people, they saw this coming. At some point, somebody was going to be the arrowhead to make this statement. So the FCT minister right now is under watch by the North Central, clearly. That's what this means. They've told him be careful with demolition, because that may be creating more room for criminals and insecurity, because you're demolishing, where are these people going to? They're also looking at it from the angle, oh, he's preparing for 2027. Oh, but bottom line is, you need to come out straight and support the APC. No question asked. So now, with the former governors insistent on being a member of the PDP, and with this score right now that has become public, it's not coming from Gandhi, so we will not say, oh, it's because it's Gandhi, oh, it's because it's Bola Tinubu. But this is an APC stakeholder from the North Central, where Wike is serving right now, saying, you have got to come out, either you're APC or you're not APC. So with his insistence of saying, I'm PDP, I'm not going anywhere, I'm being there, occupying the position that supposedly their party member was supposed to have, now pursuing the vision of the APC and still saying he's PDP. Help us make better sense of what we're going to be looking at following this.
Well, elementary governments, one would understand that a cabinetial parliamentary system of government is different from a presidential system. In the cabinets, in parliamentary system of government, like you have in the United Kingdom, you have the prime minister, who is the head of government, there in cabinet. Mm-hmm. I mean, in parliament and cabinet. Mm-hmm. The parliamentarians, where we would have had like our National Assembly members, right, are sitting there in the House as cabinet members. You probably may then have a situation where a cabinet member from another party could exist. But when you have a presidential system where the president is absolutely the head of government, and of course, the commander-in-chief and the president. So every responsibility any person, any advisor or minister is carrying out is that of the president. And so the common situation in presidential system is that the party in government is absolute. So you have a situation where all the ministers that form the cabinet of Bola Tinubu are answerable to Bola Tinubu, and they are doing what Bola Tinubu meant to do. And then when it comes to party politics, then they should be protecting the party objective and party ideology. You cannot have any minister executing the program of PDP or Labour Party or NNPP or APM. All the ministers and the government will be executing the programs of the All Progressive Party, so that if there is any difference, any disparity between the strategy that the political parties were to deploy in running the Nigerian state, you cannot have a minister, a cabinet, that when it's sworn into power will now go pick up the booklet of another party for their strategy to run the Nigerian state as against the booklet for the strategy of the government in power. I think that is the grounds of these members of the All Progressives Congress. And then they are beginning to feel and perceive, whether it's justified or not, is their own judgment, that the minister of the Federal Capital Territory, who, to public knowledge, is a member of the People's Democratic Party, who presumably will be acting and coming to work by opening a document of guide as to how he will carry out his duty, and in his head, how PDP would have done it. And then the APC people will not be very comfortable about it. And then again, we will not undermine the fact that political parties are in confrontation all the time for one purpose, to be in government. So the People's Democratic Party, to which the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory is a strong member, is in opposition, meaning including him is in opposition to the All Progressive Congress. The same way the All Progressive Congress will be in opposition in any state, like in Rivers State, where is the People's Democratic Party. And being in opposition means that they will not be supporting the progress of your government. And so if these people are perceiving that this man may not be supporting under his belly the progress of the All Progressives Congress, and political parties work well for their objective to remain in power. So meaning that even the 2027 they started talking about, they start by serving Nigerians now to be able to win the minds of Nigerians to continue to be in power in 2027. Then if you have another party who is aspiring to come to be in power in 2027, and you have them infiltrating your cabinet, they now perceive and feel that this person may have a hidden agenda to possibly destroy. So that is their foundation. But whether that is true or not, in the person of Nyesom Wike, I can't speak here.
Now he does this demolish about 160 something, I hope that figure is correct, some buildings belonging to some notable politicians in the state, in the FCT. And on the heels of that, these stakeholders are coming to say, you're either APC or you're not.
Or you're not.
Now that they've come out to be this bold to say, we want to see you. You know, remember his name was in the list I was supposed to go to bios him. Quickly they came back and said, oh, that list is not authentic. We have not seen a new list where his name, I have not seen, maybe there's one out there. So when I asked a question, when he goes to Bielsa, is he going to be campaigning for silver or for...
So that's the basic thing.
Or maybe he's not going to... But now that these people are forcing him, saying you've got to make a choice. You're either here or there.
Yes.
What are we looking at?
Well, it's left to Mr. President. Mr. President is the one that appointed him and has the power. So I think the All Progressives Congress should get back to their president. If the president is also loyal to the party, he should listen to the party. And if the party is so selfish and greedy, of course that's the nature of political parties, to take all, then they should take a decision. If the National Working Committee and yes, arguably, some people will argue that, but then the president's appointments and all of that is outside of the party. But in any case, is still the party.
Yeah, but the
president is still the party.
The former governor should not also be made to be uncomfortable in delivering his
yes,
what he's
also affecting. Maybe the mind is actually doing his real mind.
Exactly.
Presumably to say that's the best of his conviction for what is good for the FCT. But now he's put under crossfire on the hot seat by this kind of behavior. So they should. And then see the thing of choice. And let me be very candid here. Even the minister has also something of integrity also himself.
Of course.
Let me speak this to him.
Of course.
Because he's my own person. They shouldn't be talking about my own state representative in the cabinet in this manner.
Yeah.
I can't have where some people in the northeast and then be talking about my own representative in that manner.
Because
so he should have a choice. That if I have the pride, I say, please take your ministerial thing.
The other time, another group came out to say, "Oh, our brother did this. Oh, be careful about a National Assembly position." How fair is it now? Let's wrap up on this. How fair is it that people can confidently come out and make it about it's them versus us?
It will be unfortunate.
Wike, first and foremost, is a Nigerian.
Yes.
He's a
and is entitled to be the minister of the Capital Territory.
And then the issue of governance it should be what is paramount here,
exactly.
not party.
But we must not pretend, my dear brother. We mustn't pretend that even the person of Nyesom Wike himself, he holds himself out as a strong figure in the People's Democratic Party and still canvassing the position and objectives and welfare and interest of the People's Democratic Party. And the interest of it, I'm a political scientist, first. And the interest of every political party is to win government. So as PDP is, whether in their nocturnal meetings or in their broad daylight meetings, is to have to topple APC and win the presidency.
All right, let's quickly run through this. There's a very interesting story.
So it's a very dicey one, please.
Yes,
so, Chairman of the Foreign Relations Committee of the United States, Senate, Robert Menendez, has temporarily stepped down from his position following bribery charges. So, Justice Department prosecutors allege that Menendez and his wife, Nadine, accepted hundreds of thousands of dollars in exchange of aid to Egypt's government, which the couple have denied. The embattled senator, however, rejected calls from fellow Democrats back in his home state of New Jersey to resign his seat. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer said Menendez had decided to step down as chairman of the influential committee until the matter has been resolved. The New York Democrat said his colleague was a dedicated public servant and is always fighting hard for the people of New Jersey. Menendez and his wife Nadine are accused of accepting bribes of cash, gold, payments towards a home mortgage and a luxury vehicle from 3 New Jersey businessmen. Prosecutors allege the pair accepted the money to secretly aid Egyptian government and to enrich the 3 men, while Hannah Jose Ribe and Fred Dabes. Now, the issue here, it's a very interesting one. I'm just going to be straight at the same. He has not been found guilty. He has refused to resign as the Senate representing New Jersey, or he has stepped down as the committee chairman. Can we ever come to a point where we can find that in Nigeria? We're talking about integrity.
Yes. Oh, so this is quite aligned with my last comments with respect to the other discussion. We really can, because we really can't. We can't in the sense that I do not see that strong will amongst our politicians today to be able to place their integrity before their political interests, and if you like, the perquisites and then the benefits that are associated to political office in this country. You may be surprised if you compare the power that a political leader wields in Nigeria, but wrongly so anyway, not just enabled by the law as such. And then you imagine that any Nigerian, typical Nigerian, would want to give it up. And the opportunities that are also available, and the way they use the office, not quite legitimate, I emphasize. Let's take, for instance, the opportunities are available in terms of pecuniary interests, right? Money, which ordinarily shouldn't have been money that should go into your pocket, will make the typical Nigerian politician not give up office. Even those appointed into regencies, But elsewhere, you are not that powerful and a big man, even if you are the senator of the United States. You are not quite that a big man, whether you're a cabinet member in the United Kingdom. You may see him in the public train. Even the British Prime Minister is not that one, almost a semi-god. But here, even a local government chairman, as far as that look at it is concerned, is so powerful in a way that he would not dare, if he got the opportunity, to hold that office and give it up. So that's again, and integrity is one great thing. So for me, the benefits that are attached to office in Nigeria and typical African country is so enormous that human beings wouldn't want to just yield and give up. But look at what is happening. How many of them have we had that will step down upon investigation? Well, I think that's the much I could just say on this one. But Nigerians know what it is, really, and why Nigerians wouldn't want to give up positions.
All right, thank you so much, Barrister Henrik. It's been a rotten down since this morning. Thank you so much for being part of ATN Sunday and, of course, Open Air Sunday.
It's always an opportunity, and then the pleasure is mine here.
All right, and that's been our show, everyone. Now, if you missed any part of the conversation, not to worry, we got you covered. If you couldn't get the full details watching on StarTimes channel, not to worry. All you need to do is go to our Facebook and YouTube pages. You get all the shows streamed live, and you can get the full details as we look forward to hearing from you. Now, you can also watch us live on AtlanticTelevisionNetwork.tv or download our app ATN Live and watch us live anytime, anywhere. Of course, share with your loved ones. Now, following that, you can also follow us on TikTok and Instagram, Atlantic TV Network 1, and on X, the Atlantic TV Net. Do remember, peace and unity remains the pathway to progress. Enjoy the rest of your week.